It's Nick and Mike's top 100 games. But does anyone care what they have to say? Let's. I know I don't. Cause they may dab, they might scream, they may say some things that are plain wrong. Dab on it, dab on it. But they are dumb bing bongs. My teacher's better.
Good. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike.
I'm Nick.
We are the Brothers Murph. It's time for another Top 100. Or we're at 10 from the 100.
We did that thing where both of us go, we're like, oh God, we didn't. Who's going to start? You want to
You
start?
wanna
Yeah, we're fully
ahead, sir.
into the top 50 now. The last one was like, you know, we just started the top 50. Now we're like in it. Not only are we in this, Mikey, we're in the middle of our marathon. Today is Wednesday. As the day of this is coming out,
we're like this. Like, where am I? How many games do I have to play today? What's going on?
What's going to happen?
We're trying to play all of our games, which is 200 and change in 1 week.
Hold on.
What?
Today is Thursday, Mike.
Oh, we're really crazy then. We really don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we're dead middle of the week right
Thursday,
now.
I can tell you right now, as you're watching this, Nick and I are in pain. Sitting in this very spot, just being like, playing games as quick as we can.
It's true. But hey,
It's gonna be great.
It's going to be easy. I think we're done.
I mean, probably, yeah.
I think we're in the
kicking
X's right now.
We're just like on a walk on a pier.
Yeah,
Just looking at the ocean right now.
We're
We're in a canoe.
in a canoe.
But
yeah, if you don't know, we're trying to play all of our games in 1 week. It's a little over 200 games, and it's actually, as of this coming out, this releasing, this is the week that we're actually trying to do it. So that's why from now on we're constantly like, where do you think we are? Where do you think we are?
Because we're genuinely, this is past Murph, so genuinely curious about what we're going to be feeling in the present as you're watching this.
Exactly. And so there should be a video for that coming out when this release next week. And so go check that out because who knows what happens? We don't know.
It's a mystery.
But nonetheless, right here, we're doing 40 through 31 of our top 100 list. We're continuing on. We're in it. We're in the nitty gritty right now.
We're getting into some,
We're getting to the ones where it got real tough to start deciding. Between like ranking systems, it got real tough.
I know. It's just, it starts to hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
But hey, you know,
the
rankings
what's not tough,
are
Mike?
okay.
Keeping your water cold.
Taking a nice sip of this, staying hydrated with this beautiful handle. Look how easy I can hold that.
Boom. My gosh, look at this rubber grip that's useless.
With 4 to 5 quick twists, you can have a sip of water.
This top 100 is sponsored by the Coldest Water because they would not stop emailing us about giving us $50 for 10 whole videos split 2 ways.
We said deal!
And we said, you got it because we're that easy to buy.
That makes sense. It holds liquids. You could probably put orange juice in. I would not put orange juice in there with the metal.
It would
the
corrode all the
alkalines.
metal.
Do not put orange juice in here.
Get some heavy metal in the blood, you know, be good.
If you put orange juice in here, you will end up with a car battery. I promise you that. This is what my Prius runs off of. Coldest water with orange juice.
With orange juice. But Coldest Water, thank you so much for sponsoring us, but not really. So, let's go ahead and get to our number 40.
40.
Already was mentioned by Nick a while back. This is a really simple kind of area control influence game called World's Fair 1893. Based on the Chicago World's Fair, and you guessed it, 1942. 1843.
Oh, my ice is already melted.
What?
To be fair, I didn't put like full ice cubes in here.
Well, that's
but
your
like,
fault then.
They still should have kept it cold enough.
That's your fault then. World's Fair is about the World's Fair where you were putting out cubes into different areas where the World's Fair feature, like agriculture, electricity, all these things that were new and innovative at the time. And it's kind of centered around this Ferris wheel, which was a centerpiece of the actual World's Fair. And you're putting cubes out hoping to have the most influence in all of those 5 areas, or certain areas probably you'll focus on, to ultimately be able to turn in cards, which will give you these chits, which will be for set collection and stuff. And the game's super simple because you're putting cubes out and stuff, but you can play these brown cards, which then allow you to add extra cubes, move cubes from one area to the next, to try to keep your opponents guessing. There's these midway tickets, which move you around the Ferris wheel, which can give you points and also will time the game. And that's really the game, is kind of putting influence to grab some cards, which will then be used in the future to ultimately do some set collection. And we really like it because it's simple.
It's simple.
It's a simple idea at area control because it's small and easy. It doesn't feel like painful. If you know, some area control games can get really contentious. This doesn't feel that way. It's simple and quick, and I really like it.
And I'll just say, I like area control as a mechanic, but I really, really like area control when you're trying to control something that's not necessarily like
battle related.
Yeah, or just something that doesn't like. was gonna say it doesn't make sense, but that's the wrong way of saying it. It's just like it's something you wouldn't think of. Like I like viral talking about because you're trying to control organs in a body.
Yeah, it's a different vibe.
It's like this one. It's like you're trying to have your most supporters here and here and here. Petrichor, you're trying to have your most reign. I'm like that's so much cooler to me than like I fought you and now I have this land. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with those kinds of games. I like those kinds of games too, but like I find that like
to find different ways to create that mechanism.
Yeah, for me to really like an area control game, almost always the area you're kind of trying to control has to be different.
Yeah, that's fair.
Has to be not just like land, you know, because to me it just ends up being kind of boring.
Yeah, I'm into it. But that's my number 40 is World's Fair 1893.
Oh, this is not a crossover, but my number 40 is Crystal Palace, which is themed after the World's Fair. I just realized that.
It's you in that game. You were building up to the very first World's
Fair. That's awesome.
Cool.
What a cool, weird thematic crossover.
Nice.
Considering that's not a very common theme.
We like World's Fair type games.
I love
around 40th.
Around 40th or so. I really like the World's Fair
really cool.
as a theme, as we talked about when I talked about World's Fair a while ago. So Crystal Palace Crystal Palace, wow.
That's a different kind of fair.
That's a
right
different
there.
kind of fair right
Real
there,
fun,
baby.
Real fun.
So Crystal Palace is a great game. It's about the World's Fair.
Or an activity.
Crystal Palace.
To be fair, but you know.
Crystal Palace is a great. It's a great. I don't know how to categorize this game. It's like I guess action selection is ultimately what it is, dice placement, but it's a game where you're building out the first World's Fair. So you're trying to like recruit different famous people, different
You're representing
inventors.
a nation. You basically want to come into the first World's Fair hot.
Exactly. So you're trying to get inventors and innovators and their inventions, different prototypes and different patents. Essentially, you're going around. You're trying to create buzz and stuff like that. You're trying to create buzz for your country.
You're trying to like work in social circles. I mean,
you're trying to like schmooze some people. It's a lot. It's a game where there's a lot of like little boards, and those are all the different action places you can go to. So there's a lot going on in this game, and it's like decently heavy, but it comes together in a really fun package where the first time we played it, we were both kind of like, I don't know how much I like that. Like I know I liked it, but I'm not really sure. And then we played it each time. We'd be like, no, I really like that. We played it again, like, no, I really like that. It's just that after the first time, it's kind of like, what is this? What is this? What is this? And and it's just, but I really, really like World's Fair a lot. The theme doesn't hurt because if you put World's Fair on as a theme, it's going to make me like the game more.
It's just an interesting, like, how are there not more games centered around that kind of thing? Because World's Fairs are really fascinating because there's just, kind of like the Olympics, there's so much building that happens and innovation and people coming together.
Well, not to mention, board games are so multicultural because everyone in every world, in every country, every continent plays board games. And this is a cool thing because this is one of the few times, unlike the Olympics, it's the morning. Along with the Olympics, it's a time where everyone kind of comes together for a big event. That's
kind of the
vibe. Not more Olympic games.
It'd be cool to do something where you try to like organize the Olympics
or the best opening ceremony.
That'd be pretty cool.
You're a nation. You got to bring the most banger opening ceremony.
I like it. There's a game right there.
Boom. I like Crystal Palace a lot. It's my number 40. Same theme as Mike's number 40. Super cool.
Awesome. Let's get into 39 then.
Let's do it. That's how I can tell some more. I can't fuck.
39.
My number 39 is a theater-based game that Nick mentioned before with simultaneous selection called Histrio.
Oh, okay.
I ranked it high because I like the theater, man.
No,
it's my study.
You're never gonna catch
That's why
flag
I'm
for
here
me.
talking to you butts.
Yeah, you never catch flag for me for Histrio. I love Histrio.
Histrio is a fantastic game, as Nick mentioned, where simultaneous selection, you are trying to assemble a troupe of actors and acrobats, basically.
Yes.
So acrobats will give you little powers you can activate once per season. There's 2 seasons, 2 rounds. And then actors are going to be either comedic or tragic, and they're going to sway what type of play you're putting on. The more tragic actors you have, you're being putting on a tragedy. If you have more comedians, you'll be putting on a comedy. And you're trying to put on a play that pleases the king because the king has a mood that shifts back and forth. King wants a comedy. No, I want a tragedy. I want a comedy again. So you're trying to please the king, and you're all beautiful, wonderful animals, which makes it extra fun. So it's just super fun because it's really simple. You're trying to there's all these cards that we put out in 1 of 8 cities and stuff, and so you're trying to outwit your opponents. Like, I really want those people right there at 3, but I think Nick's going to go to 3. I'm going to go to 7.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone's going to 7 because it's just money and stuff, but I can make that work. So you're trying to go to some place that no one else goes to get everything. If people go to the same place, you lose a bunch of stuff, but you do get some secret objectives, so it's not the end of the world. But you that's all you're really trying to do is you're trying to assemble a group of actors and acrobats to try to put on the most pleasing play, and it just like looks super solid. It's really well produced, great little miniature, these little roosters that are your stage managers, these little caravels which just go onto the city places that you choose. It's just very nice and vibrant. I mean, that game is vibrant.
Yes, it's very saturated with
So I love it. It's just fantastic. It's my number 39 history.
All right. Number 39 was mentioned by Michael a while ago, and that is Dinosaur Island. I still like Dinosaur Island more than you for sure. I do know that. Dinosaur Island is a great, very large worker placement game that's kind of like Jurassic Park. You're building out a dinosaur theme park. It's really, really fun. It's got some of my favorite art in it by Kwanchai Moria, who's my favorite board game artist.
Such a fun look to it.
Yeah, it's such a cool neon. It's just very 90s. It's just, and we're 90s babies, and so from the second I saw it on Kickstarter when it first came out, I immediately was like, I have to have, just for the art alone, I was like, I have to have this game.
I think you showed it to me, I was just like, this is our childhood.
This is our childhood,
yeah.
It's just
it was made for
yes.
our age folks.
But I really, really like it. It's a game where it's my favorite kind, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, a couple more times, considering I really like worker placement games.
Yeah.
But basically,
more coming up.
What it is, it's the kind of worker placement game I really, really like is where like you're like, I'm gonna do this, so I can do this, so I can do this, so I can do this, so I eventually can do this.
Yeah.
And that tends to work. That kind of concept tends to work really well in worker placement games.
Yeah.
And Dinosaur Island is very, very much that. You're gonna draft these DNA die, and I'm gonna get this dino recipe, and I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna increase my security, I'm gonna do this, so I eventually can build a dinosaur to get visitors. Yeah. And it's got kind of an intuitive way of going about it, like, oh yeah, to get a dinosaur, I need to have a dinosaur recipe. I don't need to know how to make that dinosaur. Great. Oh, but now that I have the dinosaur recipe, I need to make sure I have the DNA to make that dinosaur. Yeah. And I like that very intuitive, kind of step-by-step nature that a lot of worker placement games have.
Yeah.
And it's very linear, and I really like that a lot. And Dinosaur Island is a good example of that. It's very big, it's very sprawling, it's hard to get to the table because of that.
Yeah.
So
what I talked about earlier, though, when I mentioned it, and this I think is part of it, serves kind of that intuition, is that the game is broken up each round into 4 phases.
Yes.
So it kind of leads you through.
Yes, it does very much so.
That process, which I think is really helpful for a big game like that, where it's like the game is broken up into like you only have to deal with 1 phase at a time.
Yeah.
So you can kind of think about this, so that you can go into here with some knowledge. You can go into here with a plan and execute that plan.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. Dinosaur Island's my number 39. I really like it a lot. It's
nice.
Great.
Very nice. Let's get into 38.
38. 38. 38.
Number 38 is all about dexterity, baby. It's a 2-player, non-stop thrill fest called Crokinole.
Wow, really?
Flick discs into a thing.
That makes sense. You love Crokinole.
Crokinole's amazing.
It is amazing.
We're having a custom board made right now.
We are. That's
yeah.
true. That's true.
One of my Crokinole heads.
One of my high school friends hit us up and was like, hey, I started making custom Crokinole boards. You guys want to buy one? We're like,
hell yeah.
Yeah, we do.
Please. It's going to have our logo on it. It's going to be awesome.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's going to be very personalized. So Crokinole is a fantastic dexterity game. Shouts out to Ruel Gaviola for teaching it to us.
What a beautiful man.
Bringing us into the cult that is Crokinole, the Croca cult, as we call it from within the cult, the Croca cult. So
we're part of 2 cults now? The Croca cult and the Coldest Water cult?
And we're starting one.
And we're starting a cult
that
too.
you are participating
The Bing Bong
in.
cult? Oh, man.
Y'all are
At least
deep
we're
in.
leaders in that one. We make a lot more money.
Yeah. We have more fun over here. To quote Creed Bratton, our hero and savior. So Crokinole is a dexterity game. You can play it 4 players. It's really best at 2, I think. And in this game, it's super simple. You have all these discs, and it's a big circular board with kind of different scoring areas. There's kind of an outer ring and then an inner ring with a few different pegs, these little bouncy pegs. And what you're trying to do is if none of your opponent's pieces are on the board, you simply need to get into that inner ring within those little peg pieces. Even if you're just ever so slightly over the line, if you're in there, you're good. And there's this little center hole. If you can get it in there, then that is automatically points for you. So that's even better.
Yeah.
But you only have to make it to the middle. Now, if there are opponent's pieces on the board, I only need to make sure that I touch one of my opponent's pieces.
Yeah.
Ideally, I also get into the middle because there's more points. But if I go there and don't touch an opponent's piece, it doesn't matter.
That one's gone.
That one's gone, and I can even hit my own things and mess up a bunch of stuff for me because you have to carry them off of at least one opponent's thing, which is good because you can maybe knock your opponent out of a more valuable scoring area while pushing yourself into it. And that's the whole rules. If there's other pieces, you got to touch at least one other piece. If there's not, you have to get into the middle ring. And then it's just back and forth, trying to get into the inner ring to score the most points. At the end of each round, you look at all the pieces that are still on the board. You kind of subtract the difference from each other, and if there is a difference, someone will score points like that. And it's just super simple, and it's crazy fun because it's
fast-paced. It's great.
It's magically simple. Where it's like,
but
you can pull off trick shots. It's so stinking fun.
It's incredibly fun. It's so much more fun than you think it's going to be. Yeah.
It's crazy
Crokinole is great.
So, Crokinole, that's my 38.
All right, my number 38 was mentioned by Mike a while ago, and that is Rococo. I do like Rococo more than Mike. Rococo is a game where you are a garment designer, and you are making beautiful dresses and beautiful coats for people who are going to a big ball at the King's Palace. And so that's what you're doing. So you're gathering silk, different colors of silk. You're gathering lace and thread and stuff like that. You're basically making these garments, and then you are putting them onto people and then sending them to the ball. Basically, it's kind of an area control game. Each hall of the palace, you want to have more of your garments in that hall than anyone else. If you do, you get the points for that one. But you can also do other stuff, like you can hire musicians. You can essentially sponsor musicians. Be like, I'm going to put a violinist up here. I'm going to sponsor that musician.
I'm going to put a statue or fountain out front.
Yeah, and I'm going to get more points because of that. I'm going to put a statue out front. I'm going to pay for some fireworks up on the terrace.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You're basically like just making the ball be a banger with your dresses, your coats, and then sweet music and fireworks. And that's what it is. But it's a cool deck building game where you have cards that are employees. You have master employees. You have apprentice and journeymans, and certain ones can do certain actions, and you can hire more people. And it's pretty simple ultimately, but it's really, really fun. There's a lot of different stuff you can do, a lot of different stuff you can try and make. It's just really, really fun. It's a theme that I really think is cool and underrepresented, and I just love it. I love it. We were always kind of enamored with it. We finally got our hands on it. It's great. I love Rococo.
It's fantastic, man. Really good pick. I really want to play it again. Speaking of, it's been too long.
It's been a little bit, yeah.
But that is what, 38 for both of us.
38.
Let's get into 37.
37.
Nick, is there any water bottle that's better than coldest water?
No.
Would you say that the coldest water is unmatched?
Yes. Well, in terms of water bottles that have given us money, yes.
37 is unmatched for me. If you didn't get that, that's what I'm getting at.
37 unmatched. Okay,
I'm putting all of the unmatched together. I'm not going to.
No, I didn't separate mine either.
So this to me represents the greater unmatched series, which is a series of games at this point, or rather, there's a series of different fighters you can choose, and you can mash them all up with any set can work with any other set. So Unmatched is a great game by our sponsor Restoration Games.
Shouts out.
And it's a 2 to 4 player. I really like playing it at 2. Player kind of tactical fighting game where you are going to be choosing a hero of myth and legend, and a little bit of real life if you count Bruce Lee as real life, although he was pretty legendary. And Buffy. And you are going to be fighting against another hero of myth and legend and stuff. So in the base game, you have like King Arthur, Medusa, Alice in Wonderland, and Sinbad the pirate. And then there's Cobble and Fog, which gives you Sherlock Holmes, and you have Dracula and the Invisible Man, Jekyll and Hyde. You have a Buffy set, which has Buffy and Willow and Spike. And it just becomes really more and more fun with every set that's come out because you have the weirdest combinations. You could have Buffy the Vampire Slayer fight raptors from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And it all works together. That is amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just a fun game, really simple card-driven combat where on your turn, you're going to do 2 actions. You can move around, which will allow you to draw cards. It's kind of hand management in a lot of ways.
Yes.
And then you can attack by using cards, which will give you an attack value. If Nick was to defend himself, he'll use a card for its defense value. You total up the difference to see if you damage that person. And it's the first one to knock out the opponent's hero wins. And each hero usually comes with a sidekick, which will give more players opportunities to move around and stuff. But it's all about if you can knock the other hero out.
Yeah.
And it's just fantastic. It has some of the best art in all of board games.
It might be the best art ever, in my opinion.
Like, it's crazy, the card art and stuff, and the board, the cover art and all that. It's
across the board, too, because they've had now different artists, and they're all...
It's so incredibly good art. Like, I would be a fan of this. This would be a game where I would simply, and maybe to some degree will, simply collect. Because I just want to have the art in my life to look at. Even if I don't play it all the time or something, I would be like, oh man, this art is so good. And it happens to be a really fun, simple game as well. Unmatched is great. I just always get excited to explore new sets.
Yeah, I'm the same boat. Any new set, I'm always like,
I'm into
I want to
that.
play it. I want to play it. Yeah. My number 37 is Terraforming Mars, which has, it's still very high. I'm like, oh, this is very low. But like, Terraforming Mars has kind of slipped for me. It used to be much higher on my list.
Interesting.
I still really like Terraforming Mars.
Didn't know you was a straight up hater.
Yeah, Mike likes it a lot more than me. I like Terraforming Mars quite a bit. This is a big engine building game. You probably know about it if you've followed board games at all. It's been one of the biggest hits in the last 10 years.
A new classic, modern classic.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And I really, really like it. It's a great engine building game. I think one of the main reasons I have kind of pulled away from it a little bit is because at this point, I feel like it's oversaturated.
That bloat.
Yeah, I legit kind of want to go back to just like base game with Prelude, maybe Venus Next, because Venus Next is literally just cards. But like, I flat out don't want to play with colonies. We don't have Turmoil. I have no interest in getting it. It's just that game is getting too big for me, I feel like. So every time we're about to play it, I'm like, man, I just miss kind of the days of just playing Terraforming Mars base and just being like, okay, yeah, because then it's not super heavy. You can just kind of, there's still a ton of cards and they're all unique. And so I really like it, but I think
it's got a little bit of that Clank thing where it's almost like, we're not going to play with colonies. Now we have to deal with the cards. Do we take them out? Do we just draw them? And if they come up, we ignore them. It's just a lot of, it's all smushed together.
Yeah, it's kind of all this whole big smushed together that makes me not grab it off the shelf, unfortunately.
Sure. It's an undertaking to play.
Yeah.
I play digitally a lot more now than physically.
Yeah, and I like the digital version, but just in general, and we've talked about this multiple times, like I'm just not as into digital games. And so I've played it a couple times. I like it digital. I think it's a really great digital implementation. It looks gorgeous, and I never play it. So I think I want to keep playing it, and I'm not done exploring it, but I think I want to pare it back a little bit.
Sure.
And I think then it'll either stay here or even move up a little more, because I really love the game. But it's just, it's fallen a little bit for me. But ultimately, I still love Terraforming Mars.
Fair enough.
And it'll show up on my list, too.
Fair enough.
We can talk about it again.
All right.
That's number 37, Mikey.
Let's get to 36.
Boom.
Let me text this dude, Max.
36, I guess. I think.
Game that we have, courtesy of our friend Crook, got it for you for a birthday present.
Rookie.
It's a fantastic, just Euro-ass game called Crown of Amara. I don't even know.
Man, that's a Euro-ass
It's
Euro.
an action selection via cards, I guess, is what you're doing. It's a fantastic game where you are going to be playing a series of rounds, and each round you're going to be playing 3 cards out, which are going to move pawns on these 2 boards. There's kind of like the rural board where your farms are, and then there's kind of the boards
you can get pants
of the
and stone
cities.
and
You
stuff,
get resources, and you can turn those resources in town to do a bunch of things to get points. You're basically working up 2 scoring tracks. And this is one of those games where the lower scoring track is going to be the scoring track that counts for you. So you need to work on them both.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great way to like
mechanic,
create just a interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you gotta split your attention.
Well, it's one of those things because I both love games where you can really just like, I'm just going to hone in on this one thing and do that. But I also like games that are like, no, you have to do everything.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the game, but like, I like both those things. Yeah.
I think there's room for all. So Crown of Mars is really fantastic because it's pretty tight in terms of resources and things. If you're going around on your kind of farm side, as Nick said, you're going to be getting stone, wood, pants, and stuff like that. You can make bread and things. And they're all going to be used for certain actions. And so even within the 2 scoring tracks, you need to focus to be efficient within those tracks. You don't want to... The amount of times Nick's been distracted by this coldest water, man.
No, yeah, you're not wrong.
We've added out hundreds of hours of cold water footage, but not the coldest water.
Not the exactly.
So yeah, it's just a fantastic game of like getting some resources, getting the best you can to go over here and use these things, but everything is tight. Like you don't have a ton of anything really. So it's about like how do you maximize, and the cards you'll have will have little abilities and on top of the amount of movement they give you. So it's just a lot of fun stuff to consider. But it's just a
2 rondelles. It's just cool.
Tough.
It's
really
cool.
tough. And you're kind of moving these little rondelles within the 2 boards. There's just 4 spaces on each, and it'll go around and around. So it's just puzzling, trying to figure out like I need to get here, but then I want this to go over here. This turn, so the next turn I can actually go here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to consider, but it's really great.
It's great.
My 36.
My number 36 is our favorite Ticket to Ride, which we talked about, which is Ticket to Ride Nordic countries. Just Ticket to Ride, but I do specifically like like Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries the most. Again, different reasons. One, it's a 2 to 3 player map. We almost always play 2 or 3 players. So there's just not really much of a point for us to have a bigger map. We used to have Ticket to Ride Europe, and we actually ended up getting rid of it. And then, like, a month ago, I was like, man, we could have just, like, thrown out the insert for Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries and just kept the board and just put it in one box.
It's fair to say we goofed that one.
Goofed that one a little bit, but nonetheless, Ticket to Ride Nordic Countries or Ticket to Ride in general, I really, really enjoy. And I do like the tighter map, and our family's from Norway, so the Scandinavian thing helps out a lot. And it's kind of Christmassy.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I like Ticket to Ride a lot. Ticket to Ride's very simple set collection game. You're trying to gather cards that have different colored trains on them, and you're trying to turn those cards so you can put your trains out on different colored train routes. And you're trying to make connections. You're trying to go from Oslo to Gothenburg over in Sweden. It's like, it's just where, or, Dallas to Los Angeles if you were playing the America map or whatever.
Dallas to Oslo.
Yeah, exactly. Dallas to Oslo.
You can take a train there.
But so, it's simple. I like it. It's always great. It's one of those things that we don't pull out too often, but like, I love playing this game with new gamers. It's one of my favorite games to introduce people to because it just works. It just works so well. It's so easy. It flows so well. It's just wonderful. And I do actually, we were at Swanel Game Store in Sacramento, which is our hometown. We were there recently, called Great Escape Games, and they had a bunch of the maps. And I was like, I think I would like to start getting some of the maps.
Yeah,
because you can buy just maps.
And they'll a lot of times they'll kind of give opportunities for
just
new things and stuff. There's
a lot of like 2 to 3 player maps too.
Yeah,
so like, and I wouldn't mind getting a bigger map just because we have more people to play with. And so it's like I do want to kind of explore the other maps because for the most part we actually haven't played a lot of the other maps. But I really like Ticket to Ride. I think it's great. And yeah, that's why it's my number 36.
Nice. Let's get into 35. Yeah.
You meant to say it was meant to say 35. Super awkward.
My number 35 is some city building goodness. And it's all about adjacency, what you have next to what, and you have this really cool selection system for those tiles. It is Quadropolis. Because you're putting these little
wondering if this was
going to
be on your list at all. I'm surprised.
Really?
Yeah, I knew you like it, but I guess I didn't think you liked it this much. All right.
I always have such a fun time on
I know, I did too. But
Quadropolis is a great game where you are going to be taking these city tiles from a central board with these architects, and basically the way it works is you can put your architect on any of the 4 sides of the action board, and it'll have a number on it. And so if you have 2, and I put on the left side, I'm going to go 1, 2 tiles in, and that's going to be the tile I take. There's going to be a little bit of blocking that happens from that as well. So there's this like little bit of puzzly element to actually get the tiles you need, which is really interesting. And then when you play it on your board, whatever number architect you chose will also dictate where you can put it. It'll usually tell you can put it in the column 2 or row 2 because you used it too. So there's this puzzly nature there about I want to get the right tile and put it in the right spot here. So that means I need to use a 3. Are there any 3s around that give me this thing that I need? Do I wait till next round to do that? Because it's all about adjacency within your city itself. Like apartment complexes want to be next to parks and things like that. Harbors want to be next to businesses and factories because that's where the ships are bringing, it thematically makes sense and stuff. You want your harbors to be in a nice long row because it's nice and organized and stuff like that. And they will all score different ways. It's just a fantastic, I really enjoy city building as a theme. I think it's just really interesting of like how you lay out stuff matters, and Quadropolis really leans into that and makes this kind of cool spatial puzzle in its way. So I really like it.
Yeah. Quadropolis is outstanding. My number 35 is a theater game called Shakespeare. This is a game, kind of a worker placement action selection kind of game where you are trying to put on a play and hopefully if you put on a good enough play, the queen will come and see it. You're putting on the most prestigious play. So basically you're trying to gather actors and actresses, and you're trying to build a set. You're doing a whole bunch of different stuff that essentially is going to give you prestige points, which is hopefully whoever has the most prestige points, the queen will come see their play. But on top of that, you have this track. You have 3 different acts in the play, act 1, 2, and 3, and you're going up and you're trying to go up these acts, and you can try to like go up really high on like 1 or 2 and like kind of like ignore 1. You can kind of try and do all of them, and they all give you different stuff, either money or prestige, depending on which track it is. And Shakespeare, I think, without the expansion, would have dropped very significantly. But if you watched our essential expansion, this was our number 1, if you want to spoil it.
It's great.
And that is the backstage expansion for Shakespeare. Really finished the game.
It's kind of a game saver in some ways.
It really is, because I think eventually we would have been like, okay, I've played Shakespeare. Like, I've kind of explored everything I need to explore, and now this kind of keeps it around. And basically what it is you have 5 discs as your action discs, and you bid how many you're going to play with. Whoever bid the least, they get to go first. And going first in this game is really important.
So you get all the best set pieces, costumes.
It is scarcity in terms of everything. And so getting to go first is very, very, very important. But the thing is, so sometimes you might bid only like 1 or 2 actions so you can go first, but then you literally can't do anything. And it's very, very...
yourself significantly.
Yeah, it's very tough, which I do like that about the game. But now with the backstage expansion, there's these other cards out there, and all the discs you didn't bid with, you then get to use in the backstage. And it just opens up the game a little bit and makes it really, really shine. And it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, this isn't always play with this. If we ever teach the game, we'll teach them with the backstage expansion.
Yeah, about
it's incredible. And so it's one of my favorite, if not my favorite expansion ever. I really, really love it. And I still love Shakespeare a lot. It doesn't get played quite as much. It used to be my top 10. It's now dropped down. I think it'll probably kind of keep dropping gradually. But I really love Shakespeare. 35 is, it's very worthy of that place.
Boom. Nicely picked, man.
Yeah.
Let's get into number 34.
All right.
I forgot to film number 34. It's a callback. It's a callback to a few videos ago. Oh yes, I hope you're enjoying it. Who knows? Is it terrible? We'll find out, eh? It's probably great. Those bing bongs.
My number 34 is the quickest, best, hottest, my love for filler is Draftosaurus.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I love this game so stinking
did not
much.
make my live. You love this game.
Love it. I just love, and I love to love it.
Yeah, you do.
Celebrate
You're
it.
very proud.
I celebrate my love of it.
Yeah.
I love it. Draftosaurus is just so freaking cute. It's
It's
a
great.
drafting game with dinosaurs, with little wooden dino meeples. And you're going to be taking one at a time, playing it, and then passing the rest of your dino meeples to the player on your left, and then taking new dinosaurs from the player on your right. Obviously, this was a better game prior to 2020. And you're going to be doing that, putting these dinosaurs into a zoo, and you have different enclosures, and they all want different things. So one enclosure wants one type of dinosaur and as many of that one type as you can get. Another enclosure wants all different kind of dinosaurs. You can't repeat the same kind of dinosaur. The more different dinosaurs you get, the more points.
Yep.
One wants 3, doesn't matter what it is, but it has to have exactly 3. One wants pairs of the same one. It's just set collection.
Yeah, that's all it is.
And it's just fun because it's so fast and easy and cute that it just goes over really well.
Yeah, it's
you
a
can
banger.
teach and play both sides of the board. There are 2 different sides of the board in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I love that for it. It fits into any sort of in-between games situation. And because it's kind of so cute and easy, there's not many people who are like, no, I don't want to play Draftosaurus.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't want to play a game for 8 minutes?
Yeah,
you
right?
sure?
You sure?
Play the game, you know? So I bring it to game nights and stuff, again, during the before times, because I'm like, we can fit this in anywhere.
Anywhere, yeah.
And it's just fun and light. There's 2 new expansions, which I cannot wait to get. They introduce
I know.
little extra elements and a new type of dinosaur.
Do you think it's gonna? You think it's gonna?
No, it's going to be perfect. I got
My
no
only worry
worries.
with expansion for a game like this, it is so quick, so simple that adding stuff onto it, I'm worried that it's gonna mess it up.
I'm happy to find out.
Oh, yo, for
I'm
sure.
gonna find
for
out.
sure, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Both of them, I looked into them for that because I was like, I'm curious. Both of them are pretty simple.
I'm sure. Yeah, yeah.
They're minimal, but they're cool. Like one extends the river down, and you can move your, I think, plesiosaurs, your water dinosaurs, down this river. And the further down the river they are, they give you unlock these bonuses and stuff.
That's kinda cool.
Another one does sky creatures and stuff. But they're both interesting, but not. They make sense given what Draftosaurus is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They are expansions that are on the level of what Draftosaurus would be, which is small.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they're
yeah.
not like
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Here's this huge thing. You're like, we're doing tiling now? What's going on? Draftosaurus is a fantastic filler game. Drafting game is a great way to explain drafting. It's pretty simple because the tactile nature of the dinos.
Yes.
And you kind of all put them down there and pass them. So you don't get as lost as you can in other drafting games. I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's my 34. I will love it forever.
It's true. He probably will. 34, Mike mentioned a while ago, is Seasons. Seasons is a game that kind of
good.
just keeps sticking around in my head. I love
Yeah,
Seasons.
we've had it for a
We've
long
had it for a
time.
long time. This is one of the first games we first kind of did our first, like, all right, we're going to dive in and buy like 10 games over Christmas for ourselves. This was one of the ones we got along with a couple other ones.
This game taught us the idea, the concept of drafting.
Yes, it did.
I had no idea what that was prior to Seasons.
And Seasons is great. It's a game where it's a card game of drafting. You draft in the very beginning. It's actually not, I wouldn't say a drafting game, but how you get your cards in the beginning is drafting them.
It sets you up. So it's a very important piece, even though it is the prelude to the actual game.
And basically, it's a game all about the elements and stuff like that. So your cards you have in your hand are going to be put into play almost always because you're playing different...
Bridget!
different elements. And so... you roll out these big maximum chunk dice. They're just the chunkiest dice in the game.
Fat boys.
And those are going to give you different elements depending on what season is in. So like in spring, water and earth are very prevalent. In summer, fire and wind are very prevalent. So it's like...
We can attest to that here.
Yeah, exactly. It makes a lot of sense, actually. And you're getting these elements and trying to put these cards into play. But it's just so cool because whatever die isn't taken, because there's always one more die than the amount of people, that one has a certain amount of pips on it, and that will move the time forward. And you're essentially going through 3 years. Yeah. So the thing is, you'll go, and then you'll switch seasons, which means you start using different dice. And that means you're going to get different elements. So you're trying to, like, manage all this and try to put cards into play. And there's some cards where you can mess with each other. And it's very fun. And I love it. And we've had the expansion for it, one of the 2 expansions for it, for like 5 years. Not 5 years, probably 3 or 4 years.
A while.
Oh, yeah. And we finally, like... 6 months ago, played it for the first time, and it's great.
They're all like tiny modular expansions.
Yeah.
We're always like, why did we not
play with this?
We never even read it. Be like, what is in here?
We kept being like, we can't play this. I don't know why. But nonetheless, the expansion's great too. I want to get the other one. It's awesome. And so, yeah, Seasons is wonderful. I love it. That's my number 34.
Nice.
Team 33.
Do it.
It's actually 33 in binary.
My number 33 was just mentioned by Nick very recently. It's another theater game that I like. The 30s are my theater games, 30 theaters, and it's Shakespeare. All the things that Nick said, I agree with. I mean, the art is amazing.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the art.
Being a theater fan, Shakespeare's works... Theater doer, excuse me.
You like Shakespeare, too.
I love doing Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare. I love the realm and the plays and stuff. So to have a game that is about putting on a Shakespearean play, and all the actors are just characters from Shakespeare with amazing art.
Yes.
Incredibly well done art. You told me about that game earlier. I was like, this is so cool. This is a game that we kind of came to earlier in our board gaming career.
This isn't that same slew we got seasons and stuff. Yeah.
And so I was like, there's games about theater? That's so cool.
Yeah.
And that buoyed this game for a long time. And then, like you said, getting that backstage expansion really kind of, I think, saved its place in our collection for some time because it does kind of complete the game. All those things that Nick said about the game itself are fantastic, but that art is like so good. Board games are art and stuff, and there's that one might stick around even longer, even if we did play out with the backstage expansion because of the art. I'm like, dude, I want this art in my life because it's a piece of.
And also, we have a lot of theater friends too. It's like I like playing game. I like having a diverse amount of themes because I'm like, oh, you like this? Oh, we have a game that's about that. It's like I love that.
That's one of the coolest things about board games is there's games about games about everything. So.
Especially nowadays where more and more unique themes are coming out. Yeah.
That's why we need them. 33 is Shakespeare.
All right, my number 33 is 100% this high on this list because it's at this point my favorite solo game, and that is Ex Libris.
Nice. Yeah.
I like Ex Libris. At this point, I'm not saying that like I won't want to play it multiplayer anymore, but at this point,
you're in it for the solo.
I'm in it for the solo. I love Ex Libris. Ex Libris is a game where you are building out a library, organizing a library, and it's kind of a mythical library where you have some. It's in a fantasy world for some reason, but it's very cool looking and stuff like that. Yeah. And you have your own little library and your own little special worker, like a Sasquatch or something like that, some kind of fantasy creature for the most part. I really like the game. The game is fun. It's hard to play multiplayer because it's just the graphic design on the game is not great, and it can make it a little bit difficult. And so
it's like very word heavy versus icon heavy, and it's small. So if you're sitting
small
across
text,
the table,
it's hard to read. Yeah, and it's one of those things. But Ex Libris solo is incredibly fun.
Saying it's just odd about a game about books and libraries. It's hard to read.
It is hard to read. But nonetheless, I love the solo game so much. I think it's my favorite solo game at this point. And
awesome. It works really well.
It works so well. And to the point where I'm just like, I'd rather just play it solo almost all the time. And it's still this high because I like it solo that much.
And that's a cool thing where I like when solos will change the experience to some degree.
Yeah.
And so in normal Ex Libris, you're getting more and more worker spaces as you go.
Yes.
And in the solo, you're getting less and less as you go. So it's just like taking that and flipping it backwards.
Yeah, and it's very interesting.
really weird, where it's like, oh, I need to go here because that's going to go away, or it just shifts the perspective, which is really cool.
It's very cool. I like Ex Libris a lot. Give it a check out. It's really great, especially if you like solo games. The solo game's incredible. That's my number 33.
Nice. Let's get in 32.
32.
I'm calling it right now, double crossover. I feel it again, Nick. I don't know why.
32?
Yeah.
It's possible.
Keyflow?
Oh, so close.
Really?
It's like one away, literally. Little spoiler, my number 31 is?
I could feel it, man. I could feel
close.
it. I could feel it. It was close.
Ooh, that was close.
Man.
That was really close.
I didn't want to let another feeling slip away because of the Praise Be situation.
No, yeah, it is. My number 31 is Keyflow.
Okay, Keyflow is my number 32. It could have been 31.
Freaking love
I could
Keyflow,
make a
dude.
change.
I'll talk about it now. How about I'll just talk about it now as well?
All right, cool. So Keyflow is a fantastic drafting game.
It's so good. Oh my
based
God.
off Keyflower. It's a card-driven drafting version of Keyflower.
That's better.
That we quite like. And in this, you're drafting out these cards to. The cards are going to have two things. They're going to have Keeples or Meeples, and Keyflower. You'd have physical wooden meeples. Here they're depicted on cards.
Yep.
Or you'll have buildings and things that you can build out your town. You can build out your town in 2 rows. There's kind of all your buildings up top, and then there's kind of access to the river and the waterways down below, and there'll be animals on pastures down there, and you're going to be building this out. And like Keyflower, you need to build it in a way that makes sense because you're going to be producing goods from your buildings, then you have to transport those goods to other buildings to ultimately score. You got to get some goods, move them around to do upgrades, to put them onto some things you just want to store a bunch of them. There's a whole mess of stuff, and basically the buildings will dictate what they want, where they want it, and you have to get those things to that place. We really like Keyflow because it's quick.
Yes.
The drafting is sweet. There's a simplicity of like, if I want to borrow, in Keyflower you can kind of take stuff and do things on other people's villages, and here you can do it as well, but if I do something, it doesn't hurt my opponent in any way.
It doesn't make it so I can't.
Yeah, and so it keeps the game moving because it's fairly simultaneous because we're each choosing a card, we're playing it, doing our thing, we're passing our cards, we're moving on. And it goes really fast.
Yes.
So I like Keyflow. What do you like Keyflow?
Well, I like Key for the same reasons. It's fast. It's kind of like Seven Wonders, or like Between Two Castles we talked about, where the only thing that matters is your 2 neighbors.
Yeah, you want to see what's
so
in that
whether you're playing with
villages.
3 people or 6 people, the game for you doesn't actually change. It'll be a little bit longer with more people, of course, because more people thinking, but it doesn't make it super long. And on top of that, your game itself doesn't actually change at all. And so that's really, really cool. And I don't know, there's just the way it works and the way like that you have to try and get the stuff to where you need it to go. I love that being able to use your neighbor's stuff is so cool, but it doesn't hurt them. And then the scoring in the game is nuts because the scoring is like the game itself is not that long. The scoring is almost as long because everything, like if you have a thing that gets you points for pigs, and a thing over here that gets you points for pigs, you have all these pigs, the pigs can only go to, like this pig can only be scored for one thing.
They don't apply to everything.
So you have to min-max your score, which takes a while, but I actually really like it. But there's it flows. I just love the feeling of this game. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And I want to play it all the time. It's great. I really, really like Keyflow a lot.
We really ought to do it more because we always want a higher player count, but it also works really well at 2, so we should just
2
play
is
it more.
honestly fine. Yeah, 2 is just fine. But the good thing is, like 3 again, you're like, cool. It's literally exactly the same as 3 and 6. So it's like if you get a third person, you're playing the full game, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So that's my 31.
What's your actual 32?
My 32 is Caverna. Is my 32.
Oh, nice.
Caverna is my 32. We finally got Caverna. We've been talking about it for years about how we should get this eventually. We played it a while ago, and it was probably a little bit too heavy for. We also had to like punch it out. They had it at a game store for demo, and it was still in shrink. And we're like, can we shrink this? They're like, yeah, you have to punch it out. We're like, okay. And so we did that, and then tried to learn it and play it. And it was still fun, but it was a lot to say the least.
Still is a lot.
But we finally got it, and because now we're big kind of Uwe Rosenberg fans, especially a lot of his bigger games like Fizz Road and that kind of stuff. And so we were like, dude, I want to play Caverna. And we finally got it, and it's just great. It's really, really fun. Again, it's still a lot. There's still a ton there. But it's a game where you're building out, you're farming your dwarves this time because reasons. And you're dwarves now, and you're farming and stuff like that and building out your little cave. and then getting donkeys and pigs and just Uwe stuff,
Sheep, every
farm stuff,
kind of animal.
But it's got a cool action selection thing where there's more actions. Every round, another action will come out, so you get more and more and more as time goes by. You can go on expeditions. There are about 1 billion buildings to choose from, and it's just like very overwhelming even when you have played it. I really want to try the expansion, the kind of homemade expansion. They made a real expansion. I really want to try that with the different races and stuff. Sounds super cool. So I feel like we're just dipping our toes into Caverna. I already really, really, really like it, and we're pitter-patting our feet in the water. And that's it, So, like, I'm really excited to dive farther and farther and farther into
I think as a result, and spoiler alert, because I'm checking, Caverna's not on my list.
Is it not on your list? See, I figured it'd be higher for you.
No, and I think it's because I'm still, like, finding my way. I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
What's happening?
As we've played it a few times more, I realize, I'm like, man, I'm still very overwhelmed by this game. But I'm obviously very intrigued. Yeah. I love big Uwe Rosenberg games. But yeah, I think it will pop up.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah. All right. So my number 32 is Caverna. Let's go ahead and get into Mike's 31.
I'll never guess next.
31. Wait for it. Okay. What?
So my number 31 is a very new game to us, and it popped really high, and to the point where I first made my list and forgot to add it, and then I had to go in and just like really kind of do like still like it better. So here it is. 31 is Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Oh wow, it's this high.
It's just got great art.
Oh dude, it's so good. It will be, I think, this high for me eventually. It's just brand new. That's why it was lower on my list.
Lost Ruins of Arnak is brand new, but man, like the few games we played, I was like, this is really my speed.
Yes.
Because as Nick talked about, as we've talked about in videos and stuff recently, it's very much how you extend your turn, how do you find the combos, how do you work this thing into that thing to get resources here to use over here, which is going to give you this boon, which will give you this resource, which you can bring over here to do over this. The cards are cool where you can use a card for their effect. Some have instant effects, some have, it'll take your action to make use of that card, or they have a travel icon. So do I use this card for its travel effect and then I don't get to use it for its action effect? Do I want this resource? There's a lot to consider there. Everything gives you points. It's very point salad. I know. And you're just trying to extend your turn. You're trying to, it's deck building, so you're trying to get these artifacts and items to help you out. Artifacts you get to use right away, and then they get shuffled in and will have an additional cost later, but they're pretty powerful, but you can always use them for your travel effect. Items will go basically on the bottom of your deck, and every turn you shuffle everything, put it on the bottom of your deck so it's higher up, so you have a good chance of drawing it on your next turn, especially early in the game. We don't have that many cards. There's just a lot of...
There's a lot.
Really, it's just satisfying.
Yeah.
Because you get to combo stuff into combo stuff. Into that 4th and 5th round, you're going to do some stuff.
Oh, you can extend your turn for a way longer
Especially
than you
compared
think.
to the first round, where like round's over immediately.
What's so satisfying in the game is like I get into a 3rd, 4th round or whatever, and I'm like, I do a couple things, I'm already like, man, I'm almost done. Like I can't do anything else. And I'm like,
and then you're like,
oh wait, no, I can go over here and get this. You're like, oh wait, but then I can use my get there to go over here. Oh crap! But then I can go. And it's you start figuring out ways to, and you just go keep going. And a lot of times you're like, I'm done. I can't do anything else. And you're like, oh wait, no, I can. And then that little bit of a discovery and that little like, ooh, oh, it's so good.
So good. So that's my 31. As Nick mentioned,
Keith Flow
was his 31. So that makes up this section of the list. Man, we have some really good games in here.
It's getting to be some bangers.
I know. Every time I look at these things, it's funny because as we're talking about them, it's like, man, I just really want to play this.
I know, right? I know. We're getting to the top 30, top third right now.
I know. Here we go. So thank you so much for joining us. We've been making this joke, the coldest water. I don't think they know who we are. I will be honest with you about that.
They don't.
But you know who does know who we are, and we really appreciate is everyone who's watching this video, and certainly our patrons. We really appreciate y'all. We make a joke about this sponsorship, but in a real way, you really do sponsor what we do. You sign off on our brand of weirdness and give us money and support for it, and we really appreciate it. It's we mean this with absolute sincerity. It's amazing to put something out and then have people be like, I like that. I'd like to see more of that, please. I will help you make more of that.
Yeah, that's
really cool.
So
we appreciate everyone that watches us, whether or not you give financially as well.
Yeah, but you don't have to.
Thank you so much for all of this. This is the second time we've gotten to do a top 100 games of all time. We've stuck around long enough to do this twice. That's amazing.
That's nuts.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
I mean that. So thank you so much for joining us for another section of our top 100 games.
Yeah, let us know what you thought of our games down in the comments below. If you're following along and making your own top 100 along with us, which hopefully some people are, give us your 40 to 31. And if you're watching this the week this came out, we are going to be streaming every night at 6 o'clock in the middle of our marathon. Like you said, we're going to be streaming for 2 hours every day. So you can check in and see where we are in that marathon.
As we mentioned, if you're watching this the day it comes out, or certainly the day after, it's Thursday and Friday, meaning we are in the middle.
We're in the dregs.
So if you want to see two people who are physically alive, but mentally who knows where they are, check us out on Twitch. It's going to be really fun.
It's going to be real fun. And that's going to be it. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Nick.
I'm Mike.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
Real talk, you think we're dead yet?
Yeah.
I feel like we're
I think they're going to open up the stream. It's just going to be an empty room with someone going, ha, 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 ha. Thank you so much for watching another section of our top 100 games of all time. If you want to see the section before this one, so 40, the 30, whatever it is, it's here. If you want to see the next section of this, because you're watching a bit in the future, it'll be right down here. And if you're watching it right now, there'll be something cool anyway. And don't forget to subscribe.